Welcome, everyone, to Chromatic Council. I am your host, Carrie Heaps, and I have such a great show lined up for you today. But first, I want to let everyone know that we've changed our format just a little bit. So instead of just focusing on the colors that attorneys are wearing in legal proceedings, we're also focusing on the attorneys themselves and getting to know them a little bit, why they got into law, what makes a good referral for them, and also, too, for those within the legal community that service the legal community are welcome as guests as well. So today, I want to welcome Patrick Barnes to the show. Patrick is a licensed attorney in Colorado and Florida. He's been practicing law since 2012 and specializing in personal injury and estate planning. He earned his Bachelor's of Science in Psychology from Florida State University and his Juris Doctorate from Florida Coastal School of Law. He is also a published author, a national speaker on trauma-informed legal practice. He's also dedicated to providing compassionate representation. And Patrick emphasizes the importance of mental fitness and mindfulness in legal practice to achieve outstanding results for his clients. And through his career, Patrick has guided clients through all phases of the personal injury process, from treatment to litigation and jury trials. His trauma-informed approach really ensures that clients feel informed and comfortable at every stage of their case. Now, outside of work, Patrick enjoys spending time with his wife, two children, and his dog, Yoshi. He's an avid golfer, runner, music lover, and sports enthusiast. So welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here. And I also just wanted to let everyone know part of the reason I wore a little bit of pink and brown today. As I like to tell everyone, pink's a very soothing color. It's a great color to wear. When tensions are really high, you need people to calm down a bit. And brown is always a great, relatable color to wear as well in court. It makes you appear like a neighbor, the guy next door. So I kind of wore that in honor of our show today, Patrick, because we're going to be talking about that a little bit further. But I would love for you to tell the listening audience a little bit more about you and what led you to the practice of law.
It's a good question. I kind of just thought about things that I like in general with things that I think are my strong suits. I like talking. I like problem solving. I like relating to people. And then I like helping other people solve problems. And those things all are things I do on a daily basis as an attorney. So I wouldn't say it was so much I wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to do something that had public speaking, problem solving, and then interacting with people all the time. And that is, so I'd say it's more a combination of those things than actually wanting to be a lawyer. It just was one of those things that I can do those things in.
Wonderful. Now, I know you practice more personal injury and estate planning. Was there something that kind of guided you to that type of law? Something that is there a story behind that? Or was it just something that you chose while you were in law school?
No, it was something that when I came out of law school, I had an opportunity at a personal injury firm, and I didn't know really anything about it other than what we learned in law school about torts, that kind of thing. But I took the opportunity and seized it, just as anybody newly graduated would do. I actually started as a paralegal at a personal injury firm,
Oh.
and just got really into helping people and saw the benefits of working in that type of firm, and have always done it and have always loved it. I've done everything from auto accidents and nursing home neglect to workers comp,
Mhm.
helping injured workers. So the whole spectrum of personal injury. But I really enjoy it. I really, like I said, enjoy problem solving, and that's what people who get in car wrecks have, is they get um, this whole thing kind of thrown on their plate. They have no idea how the process goes, and so being able to jump in and say, "Look, well, let's do this together," is very fulfilling for me.
Absolutely. And, I know I want to talk a little bit about the trauma part of all of this that
Yeah,
you deal with, because, one of the favorite questions I love to ask on this show is what's like your go-to color, for legal proceedings? And you probably have more than one. But tell us a little bit more about the trauma side. Like what sort of like process do you have, or what like tips you would have for other attorneys if they're kind of dealing with that with their clients.
Sure. Yeah, I mean there's a bunch of different aspects of what we focus on with the trauma, what we call trauma-informed legal practice, which has a couple different components. But essentially, we are interacting with people who have sustained trauma to one level or another. Most lawyers are, right? There are a couple subsections of law where you probably don't see a lot of it, but most lawyers, especially those on the plaintiff side, are interacting with people who have sustained trauma. They're in your office not because they want to be, but because they have to be, and something's happened to them. And I think there's a growing movement in the legal profession to understand what trauma looks like, how is it manifested, like what are the symptoms of it, and then how do we as legal professionals, whether that's attorneys, paralegals, judges, you name it, bailiffs, anybody
Mm-hmm.
in the profession, how do we help prevent the re-traumatization for clients, which leads to better representation, more trusting representation. And then also, how do we kind of protect ourselves as helping professionals, not get burnout as easily, not sustain secondary trauma, which leads to what we call compassion fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
which is, once you have it, you're the last to know you have it. But we're definitely, as the legal professionals, are susceptible to it. And so, um, my dad is a PhD. He's dealt with compassion fatigue and trauma work in all different professions, from nurses and firefighters, doctors. And him and I were having a conversation when I was a younger attorney, um, and I was having all of these symptoms of compassion fatigue and burnout and disillusionment and wanting to leave the profession. And he said, you're looking at compassion fatigue. And I did not know what that was. We kind of started saying, okay, well, if all these other professions are already doing this, why is the legal world not? And we
Mm-hmm.
started putting all of the data towards me. I go, that happens here. Yep, we interact with traumatic material, et cetera, et cetera. And we started speaking and writing about it, and I've implemented it in my practice every day,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's for my own good or in helping my client feel more comfortable, more safe, talking to me. Somebody that it would, if it was their choice, they wouldn't be talking to
Mm-hmm.
me. And so when you and I have spoken in the past, I was very fascinated by your expertise in colors, not only from like a courtroom perspective, like how do you want to be viewed by the jury that you don't know based on your color scheme, but also how do we make our office more comfortable, more inviting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do we wear if we're not in court to make our clients feel, I guess, less threatened, right, by the
Mm-hmm.
legal process. So I had you on my podcast, and so I'm really happy to be here, and I just rambled a lot there. So yeah, I'll let
No,
you.
that's okay. No, that's always, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because it's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine who's not in the legal profession. And actually, I was talking about you were going to be on the show, and I was talking about what you do with the, trauma and compassion, like you were talking about with compassion, um, fatigue. And she was kind of taken aback, like, why would attorneys have that? That does, but again, I think the general public, you don't know what you don't know. And like I
Right.
was telling her, I'm like, law is very stressful. I'm like, I'm not an attorney. However, I worked for, attorneys several years ago prior to going out on my own. And I remember, I think it was the first or second week I was there. It was a brand new law firm that was just opening up. And
Mhm.
they had the insurance person there. And I may have told this story before, but for group health and life and, dental and vision. And I remember overhearing the main attorney say, "Well, what do we have here like for disability if something happens where law becomes too stressful for me and I can't practice anymore?" And I
Mhm.
remember I overheard that. Obviously I wasn't participating, but I remember thinking to myself, sit behind a desk all day. How is that stressful? But that was also too kind of my first experience working in a law firm. So
Mhm.
probably 6 or 8 months later, I actually went to him and I said, I have a confession to make. I had overheard you say this and I thought I kind of dismissed it, but now I want to apologize to you for what I was thinking in my head because I had no idea because you're dealing with so many human emotions.
Hmm.
And it doesn't matter if it's family law or if it's, somebody who is starting a business or ending a business or they've been in an accident. There's human emotion involved and you absorb a lot of that, as
Hmm.
attorneys. And I don't think people realize that. What's been your like go-to colors like within your office? Do you have some like did you decorate your office or conference room in certain colors to kind of help soften,
I
or
mean,
make it more comfortable?
I'm a big fan of blues and greens.
Hmm.
Dark green, like a forest green, is my absolute favorite color.
Yeah.
Um, I tend to, obviously we wear suits a lot, and
Hmm.
so we were kind of it was beaten into our heads in law school, grays and blues and blacks, and don't
Hmm.
deviate from that because the courts don't like it. I think that's probably changed a lot more since then, but so like in my head, I'm always thinking like grays and blues because
Hmm.
I don't know why, but I don't like black suits. I just never have. I always wear like brown shoes, so
Yeah.
black suits and brown shoes don't match. And I'm not. I want everyone listening to know I'm not like a fashion icon, but I like grays and blues, and so with grays you can get away with different types of ties, right? Like greens,
Right. Yeah.
maroon. I like, but soothing colors. I'm not really like I try to stay away from like yellows. Um, I don't wear a lot of too like you know uh, eye catching colors, stuff that really is a calming energy to them.
Hmm. Yeah. And I know too, and I always tell everybody with color, wear the gray, wear the black or the brown or the navy suit, and you can always utilize your color with the shirt you have on underneath or the tie, or for the ladies, same thing. You can wear a scarf or a bracelet, that has that color in it of whatever you're trying to kind of the emotion that you're trying to elicit from the people that you're dealing with. Um, so I want to switch it back a little bit to, the focus on you and your firm. So
Mhm.
tell me what makes a good referral for your law practice now? Because I know, I think when we originally started talking, you were with a different firm. Like,
Mhm.
what's your, like, if you had to describe what's your typical, like a good referral for you that you can be like, hey, I can really help this person, what would that
Mhm.
be?
I think anyone who has any kind of I'm going to use a broad term, but like personal injury, and the reason I use that term is because
Mhm.
it is a really wide net, right? So
Mhm.
you can be in a car wreck and be injured. You can have a loved one who was in a nursing home that wasn't treated well. You
Mhm.
can have a medical malpractice situation occur, or like I said, you can be hurt on the job, right?
Mhm.
So it is a wide thing, and so therefore the referral sources, like when I used to do a lot of estate planning, obviously referral sources would be like financial advisors, realtors, people who regularly saw people that needed to update their will or their trust or whatever it was. But with the personal injury, it can come from literally anybody, right? So
Mhm.
the referral sources are
Right.
wider, I guess, just because it's basically anyone who knows somebody that has gone through something they need to potentially have a lawyer help with.
Hmm. Yeah. And what about strategic partners? Because I always like to ask, who makes a good strategic partner for you? Because obviously, for those who are listening that aren't really sure what strategic partners are, think of the easiest way I can explain it: hot dogs and hot dog buns. You're not going to buy
Yeah.
one without the other. So,
Hmm.
what do you feel is the best strategic partner for you for what you're doing now?
Well, I think it might sound strange, but other lawyers are a very
Hmm.
strategic partner because law has gotten very specific, niche, right? You do I do
Hmm.
this, and people think, oh, you're a lawyer. Let me ask you a question about probate, right, or something, or family law. Lawyers now are have become so specialized in what they do. We are
Hmm.
always relying on each other to be able to say, look, I don't have a lot of expertise in that, but I have a trusted, person that I know that does. You should talk
Hmm.
with them.
Hmm.
And I think personal injury is kind of the thing that some people might say, oh, well, we dabble in it, right? We do a little bit of it, but it does have a lot of specificity to it. And so
Hmm.
where I'm very comfortable telling people, hey, that's not my wheelhouse. I don't really know that, but I
Hmm.
know, people that do.
Hmm.
To feel comfortable saying the same thing about personal injury instead of trying to dabble in it, just get it to somewhere you trust, and
Hmm.
that's what we do.
Yeah, and then the estate planning that you do,
Yeah,
because you're also doing that. Do you find that financial planners make a good strategic partner for you as well, or have you not really found that to be, or even CPAs? I would think.
definitely. Yeah, and we're not the firm I'm at currently. We're not doing estate planning at the moment. But when I
Oh,
was, yeah,
okay.
CPAs, financial advisors, realtors,
Hmm.
um, they see so many people and they're taking care of their assets, and they need to make sure that people have a plan in place so that their assets are taken care of if something should happen to them, which a lot of people don't do. And I think
Hmm.
the reason is because it's not something anyone really wants to think about. Like
Hmm.
doing a minor guardian affidavit, right? That what happens to my young kids if something should happen to me or my spouse. Nobody wants to think about that in an actual literal sense, so they don't want to do the documents, but they're
Yeah,
crucial, right?
yeah. Yeah, and I think nobody ever wants to face their own mortality,
Of course. Yeah.
ever, regardless of their age. But flipping back to like the personal injury side, that you're
Mhm.
really, because you're really focusing on that, like
Yeah.
it seems like 100% now.
Yeah.
And as far as like a strategic partner, what about, and this is just me asking, just I think in general, because I think people would be interested. What about like doctors or even like chiropractors? Because I would think, I guess I go back from me being in a car wreck many, many, many years ago. I did not seek out an attorney first and foremost, which I should have done looking back on it. However, I did go to first to a chiropractor because I
Hmm.
was having trouble with my neck. I kept rubbing my neck, and somebody at work said, what's is your, are you hurting?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm sore, but I'm sure it'll go away in a few days." And they're like, why don't you go see my chiropractor? They got me an appointment and I saw them that day, and they did x-rays, and they're like, you're in bad shape.
Hmm.
You're going to be hurting even more, as the week, and they were right. I was. And I wound up, because me personally, I had gotten an attorney based on just dealing with the insurance company. I remember the person who hit me had the same insurance company I
Hmm.
did, and they called me one day and said, "Okay, we're not covering any more of your doctor visits, and you need to turn in your rental car, or you're paying for it on your own." And
Hmm.
I was like, "What? Really? Well, you can't do that." And they're like, "Actually, we can." And they hung up on me, literally hung up on me. And I called an attorney the next day, and it went so much better after
Yeah.
I did that. But what about like the doctor's aspect, or even chiropractors, or because I would think that people who are in car wrecks, sometimes if they don't go to an attorney, would they go there first? You
I
know?
think it's so case specific.
Hmm.
Everybody does something different. Some people call a lawyer first. Some people go seek out medical attention, maybe an emergency room. They go
Hmm.
there first. So every case is so different. But I
Yeah.
think having a team, a medical team, and then a legal team that you know that everybody's got your back, right? Their
Hmm.
job is to make sure that the doctors are making sure you get healthy and back to pre-accident health. Your lawyers are making sure that everything from the legal end is where it needs to be. Um, it just allows people to feel more confident that
Hmm.
everyone is taking care of them for them, and
Hmm.
it allows, I think, the healing process to occur a lot easier if you're
Yeah.
not worried, right? You're not worried
Hmm.
about it. Is this am I going to get covered? Like you said, are they going to cut off my bills at some point? What do I do next? What happens if I'm hurt long term? I need future care. What if you're having all those questions and no one to answer, either legally or medically?
Hmm.
It just adds stress, which then prevents you from kind of getting back to where you were.
Yeah.
So it's crucial to have a couple teams, right? A good legal team, a good medical team,
Hmm.
and get healthy.
Yeah. And I know you kind of already answered this question, but like what
Yeah,
kind of scenarios are people in that make them a good referral for you? And
yeah.
obviously they've just been in a car wreck, or maybe because I've heard too, like you don't want to wait too long to call an
Hmm.
attorney. You don't want to wait a couple of months because that's going to hurt you in the long run.
The sooner the
Um,
better.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like even if I guess if they're not thinking about like, hey, I'm not anticipating any problems, but just to be proactive, it would be a good idea to reach out.
Our firm does. Most
Hmm.
most firms offer free consultations. So to at the
Hmm.
very least, call and ask questions. Right? What
Hmm.
do I do if this? And maybe you're not really prepared to hire a lawyer yet, and that's
Hmm.
okay. But if somebody's willing to have a free conversation with you and at least give you a little bit of insight on what to do, you should jump on it.
Hmm.
Um, and then make your decision at that point, if you're
Hmm.
comfortable with the lawyer and you want to move forward. But yeah, the sooner the better. I tell people, well, you can hire me now and my fee is a contingent third,
Hmm.
or you can wait 6 months and do it yourself and then get frustrated with the process and hire me in 6 months, and guess what, my fee is a contingent third. So for the
Hmm.
same price, I don't bill you by the hour.
Right.
For the same price, you could have me for 6 extra months and make sure everything goes smoothly, or you can hire me for the same price down the road. So um,
Right.
I'm a big proponent. I'd tell family, I'd tell friends, get a lawyer early, and then that way you've got an advocate. I mean, we are, on your side literally,
Hmm.
for the whole process. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion personally,
And
and it's
well,
not biased because I'm a personal injury lawyer.
yeah, well, and I would say this too, as someone who's been in a car wreck
Yeah,
before and had to get an attorney, and I didn't want to. I felt like there was such a stigma around that. Like I was
yeah.
trying to get something for nothing, is what I felt like. And at least that's what the insurance company made me feel like. But it was so much easier. I'm so glad that I did it because it was like they did a 360 turn in the parking lot with the way things
Mm,
were going. And had I not had that, I don't think I would have experienced that at all. I think
yeah.
it just would have continued to go downhill. But this has been so enlightening, Patrick. Thank you. I want to ask you, just in
Mhm.
closing, is there anything you want to share with anybody? I know you've been doing some speaking and you've got your radio or your podcast, and I didn't know if you had some other things you want to share with everybody.
Um, no, I mean we're continuing to work on the trauma stuff. We're actually in the process of writing a book on it right now. We're going to be focusing. The book's going to be a lot of a guide for legal professionals
Oh.
about working with traumatized clients. Because what happens is the legal profession not really having that expertise or the information about what trauma looks like and how it manifests. Clients can sometimes get a difficult client, right? Maybe they
Mhm.
are really defensive very fast, right? They get very hyper vigilant. They are forgetful. They don't remember um, either what you've talked about, or they have a hard time recollecting all the memories of the accident or whatever it is. Those
Mhm.
are all primary trauma symptoms. And so if we can change the viewpoint of, oh, they're a difficult client, quote unquote, to they're a traumatized client, it changes a lot of things, including the energy that it takes to be frustrated
Mhm.
as a legal professional. It changes that
Yeah.
because I don't want to say you practice with more empathy, because I think we practice with empathy. We wouldn't be in this profession if we didn't have empathy,
Mhm.
but it just changes. Instead of being like, why can't Joe Smith remember anything we talk about? Well, if you
Mhm.
go, well, it's because Joe Smith, because of his trauma, is redlined every time he talks to you, that his frontal cortex is not able to remember.
Mhm.
I think you could feel better about it, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
not as frustrated by that, I guess. So that's what the book's gonna be, and it's gonna have compassion fatigue and all that stuff in it. So hopefully when it's done and ready, I can come back on and talk more about it.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, I was just going to mention that. I would love to have you back on as soon
Yeah.
as it's done. That sounds so exciting. And any speaking engagements coming up for you or?
We're speaking in front of the Manatee County Bar. I
Oh,
live in Tampa, and I work at a law firm called Hale Law out of Sarasota. We cover the whole Gulf Coast. So if anyone needs a personal injury attorney, or other attorneys want to refer cases that aren't your specialty to us, we would love to talk with you. And yeah, Hale Law. Our slogan is "Go to Hale."
I love that. I love it. Oh, and we have a link to that in the show notes below as
Yeah,
well. So you can everybody can go directly there and connect with
and
you
they can go to
too.
Hale.
So yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, Patrick, thank you again for being a guest on the show today. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait for the book to be done and have you back on the show and talk some more.
Thank you. I've had such a good time.
Wonderful. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. If you want to connect with Patrick or go to Hale, click on one of the links in the show notes below, and you can go directly there and you can connect with him and start referring business or whatever your needs may be. And I also want to remind everyone, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, we are accepting attorneys, anyone who services the legal community. is welcome to be a guest. You can click on that link in the show notes as well and click on the form, fill that out. That's going to come directly to me, and we'll go from there to see if we can get you scheduled on to be a guest on the show. And if you are wondering about the color of persuasion, if you are an attorney and you need some help with that, I have a link in the show notes as well to take you directly to my website at carriestudio.com, and you can get a free download for the color of persuasion that is just for attorneys and paralegals. And that is about a 40-minute class. It's totally free. You can watch it anytime you want on demand. And if you are interested in getting your color analysis done so you know what to do with these colors and what shades look best on you for you to wear, that link is in the show notes below as well. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. And remember, you don't want life to be boring. Make it vibrant with color. And I hope you can tune in next time.